Radhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yasoda Nandana Vajjana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Vajjana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajakacharya Ostatera Sattva Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajakacharya Ostatera Sattva Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki, Namacharya Srila Haridasa Thakur Ki, Premchikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki, Jagannath Subhadra Balaram Ki. Jai, all glories to the assembled devotees. You're staying for Bhagavatam class? Yes? Good. Where is everyone this morning? Where? We used to have such a big crowd like 4 and 5 years ago. We'd be in Prabhupada's room, but it would be full of people. Now there's only a few, huh? Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Can they hear the class down in the kitchen and other places? It does? It goes through to there? Okay. And in the back too? Or the kitchen has a... It's connected. Okay. So we are reading from the 4th canto, chapter 8. And today, why don't we read text number 81? Because yesterday we read text number 80. Do you have text number 81 on your sheets there? Does anyone else smell the smoke in the air? Something's burning. It's burning my eyes too. What is it that's burning? The settlement over there? What's it? Weeds? What's burning? You don't smell it every day. Okay. Ready? Deva Uchu Naivam Vidamo Bhagavan Prana Rodam Charachar Shakila Sattva Damna Videhi. That's Vidhehi. Vidhehi. That H, yes. Tan No Vrijinad Vimoksham Prapta Vayam Tam Saranam Sarayam Deva Uchu Naivam Vidamo Bhagavan Pranarodam Chara Chara Svaikila Satvadamna Videhitano Vrijinad Vimoksham Praptavayam Tvam Saranam Saranyam Deva Uchu Naivam Vidamo Bhagavan Pranarodam Chara Chara Sakila Satvadamna Videhitano Vijinad Vimoksham Praptavayam tvam saranam sarayam. Deva uchu naivam vidamo bhagavan pranarodaham. Chara charasya kila satvadamna. Videhitano vidinad vimoksham. Praptavayam tvam saranam saranyam. Deva Uchu, all the demigods said, Na, not. Evam, thus. Videnaha, we can understand. Bhagavan, O personality of Godhead. Pranarodam, how we feel our breathing choked. Chara, moving. Acharasya, not moving. Akila, universal. Sattva, existence. Damna, the reservoir of. Videhi, kindly do the needful. Tat, therefore. Na, are. Vijinat, from the danger. Vimoksham, liberation. Prapta, approaching. Vayam, all of us. Tvam, unto you. Saranam, shelter. Saranyam, worthy to be taken shelter of. Translation. The demigod said, Dear Lord, you are the refuge of all moving and non-moving living entities. We feel all living entities to be suffocating, their breathing process choked up. We have never experienced such a thing. Since you are the ultimate shelter of all surrendered souls, we have therefore approached you. Kindly save us from this danger. Repeat after me. The demigod said, Dear Lord, you are the refuge of all moving and non-moving living entities. We feel all living entities to be suffocating, their breathing processes choked up. We have never experienced such a thing. Since you are the ultimate shelter of all surrendered souls, we have therefore approached you. Kindly save us from this danger. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Dhruva Maharaj influence attained by executing devotional service unto the Lord was felt by the demigods, who had never before experienced such a situation. Because of Dhruva Maharaj's controlling his breathing, the entire universal breathing process was choked. It is by the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that material entities cannot breathe. Whereas spiritual entities are able to breathe, material entities are products of the Lord's external energy, whereas spiritual entities are products of the Lord's internal energy. The demigods approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the controller of both kinds of entities, in order to know why their breathing was choked. The Supreme Lord is the ultimate goal for the solution to all problems within this material world. In the material world there are no problems, but the material world is always problematic. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the master of both the material and spiritual worlds, it is better to approach Him in all problematic situations. Those who are devotees, therefore, have no problems in this material world. Vishvam Purate Sakyate, the Chaitanya Chandramrita. Devotees are free from all problems because they are fully surrendered under the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For a devotee, everything in the world is very pleasing because he knows how to use everything in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Om Jnana Timiranyasa Gyanagana Salakaya Chaksurimilitaniyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we see several things. We see how great the influence is of someone who becomes a pure devotee and becomes powerful. He can affect the whole universe, as he was choking up the breathing process. But what's important here is that whenever there's a problem, the demigods approach Krishna or Vishnu in whichever form they are worshipping in. There's a verse in the Bhagavatam, Akarma, Sarvakama, Moksha Karma, Udarati, tivrena bhakti yogena. That whether one is full, has no material desires, whether has sarva karma, many desires, or whether he has desire for liberation, that he should approach the Supreme Lord to fulfill these desires. Because Krishna is the controller. Prabhupada mentions in the, well, we'll get to that in a minute. You know, Krishna says that he is the mother and father of creation, that not a blade of grass moves without his will. So everything is going on by Krishna's will. We see that some people think that there's 4 factors of activities. There's the place of action, there's the senses, there's the doer, and there's the endeavor to be done. We take something like in history, in World War II, the Germans were just about to take Moscow. They had a gun that would shoot a shell that would go 30 kilometers, and they were 36 kilometers from Moscow. They needed to get another 6 kilometers. It would be like on a railroad track, and it would destroy a whole block. It would like destroy the whole, one shell would destroy the whole Chatsworth Mall. And it was November 7th, the winter wasn't going to come for a month and a half, because they had the right census, they had the right plan, they had the right endeavor, because they had all the 4 factors of activity in control. But what did they forget? Anyone know? In the chapter about nature, enjoyer, and consciousness, how many factors does it say there is? Anyone know? It's not rhetorical. How many? When I was discussing those, did I leave something out? Someone has to answer. Did I? What did I leave out? The 5th factor, which is the Supreme Lord. He can make the easy things become difficult, and he can make the difficult things become easy. In that World War II, the winter came a month and a half early. You know how you know that that's possible? Because it happened. Once something happens, then we can't say it's not possible anymore. So the winter came a month and a half early, and everything froze, and so the Germans couldn't move any closer, and they weren't able to take Moscow. It must be similar to that now with Russians trying to attack Ukraine, that they're not able to take it, even though they have a bigger country. They're not able to take the Ukraine because Krishna is the 5th factor, and he's not letting it happen. So we have to remember that because Krishna is the supreme factor, that we turn towards Krishna, that we don't try to settle all the problems. I know I get that in my mind. I'm worried about stuff. Like today, somehow, my daughter's leaving, and all of our things go to the post office box. And Tukaram at the temple in Laguna, he's very responsible, and he trains his kids. One of his kids, who's 16, is going to pick up the mail and send us photos of it. And a bill comes. Tukaram says, well, he can pay the bill and I can just reimburse him. But in my mind, I'm worried about what if this kid loses the key? And what if they don't find the bill? Or what if something goes wrong? But it can't be the end of the world. Krishna has to make it work out properly. And when I go back in 2 months, it'll all be the same. But Krishna makes us look at the circumstances because he wants us to depend on him. So whether it's a big problem or a small problem, we have to depend on Krishna. And that's what the demigods did here. Whether one is full of desires, that's a sarva karma, akama, has no desires, or moksha karma, who desires liberation, that they should turn to the Supreme Lord. And so when the problems come, it helps us to surrender to Krishna. That's why Vaisheshika, who is a minister in charge of book distribution, and he's been a book distributor since the early 70s, there's one lecture he gives called Problems Are Our Friends. Now, we don't usually think of making friends with problems, but the problems put us in a position where we have to surrender. We look at Ajamil. He had a problem. The Yamadutas were going to come and rip him out of his body. That's sort of a big problem, isn't it? Don't you hate it when that happens? You know, they made some movie, I think it was called Ghost, where the Yamadutas were in the movie, and they would come to get people out of their bodies who were sinful people and yank them out. So we see that when we put this knowledge of Krishna out, because it's so fantastic, people use it in different things. I mean, what a better conception for them to take than people leaving than the Yamadutas coming. They even use, I think there's one lipstick called Infallible. But, these words are not used much except in Prabhupada's books. You don't find that advertising for a different product. It's infallible, right? Because everything in the material world is fallible, and everything in the spiritual world is infallible. But what's amazing is, though, even though Krishna is infallible and he's a supreme absolute controller, he can be a kind friend to all the living entities. And this is what's amazing in this dual relationship they have. The demigods are working hard to control the universe, and they're very powerful. But still, when they get in trouble, they have to take shelter of Krishna. Sometimes they even get themselves in trouble. Can anyone name a demigod that got himself in trouble? Yes? Think of one. You can't think of in the Krishna book, in the Bhagavatam, what demigods got themselves in trouble? Which one? Lord Brahma. What did he do? What did he do? And he tricked Krishna, right? After he stole them, Krishna was looking perplexed. But when he's perplexed, that's it's making Brahma think that his trick worked. And what's another demigod that got himself in trouble? He was going to destroy Vrindavan with what? He was mad because they stopped the sacrifice in his name? Indra. So he flooded Vrindavan, right? Well, he tried to, but Krishna lifted the Govardhan hill so easily, and all the inhabitants were saved. And then finally, at least Indra realized in the end, they say this saying, if you can't beat them, join them. This is what Kamsa should have thought of. Because Kamsa sent all these demons to kill Krishna. And how many of them were successful? Was Pralambasura successful? Did he try to kill Krishna? No, he tried to kill Balaram. How about, let's see, how about the Shakatashura, the cart demon? How about Putana? Was she successful? No? How about Dhenukasura, Aristasura, Bakasura, the big duck demon? They're shapeshift into something that's very powerful. What about Agasura, the big snake? He must have been successful because he swallowed Krishna and the cowherd boys, right? And that's where the story ends. Is that where it ends? No. So he wasn't successful. So even though they're a big demon, he was 8 miles long, which is 12.8 kilometers. That's pretty far, isn't it? What's 12.8 kilometers from here? Pinetown? What would be 12.8 kilometers away? Can someone think of something? Downtown Durban, how far is that? Is that 20 kilometers? Anybody know how far? 20. So what's 12.8 kilometers? Umslenga? No, Pinetown. Pinetown? Yes? Maybe? So, all of these big demons came to kill Krishna. And were they all successful, or very few were successful? None of them. So then Kamsa should have gotten the clue. Because then comes the failure. Well, when Krishna comes to Mathura, first he'll have the elephant try to kill him, and then he'll have the guards try to kill him, and if that doesn't work, the wrestlers like Chanura and Mastika will kill him. So when all of them failed, maybe Kamsa should have thought of this. If I can't beat them, join them. Because then he says, okay, he thought he would just up his game more and get more upset, because he says, okay, now I want you to capture Vasudev and Nanda Maharaj and the residents of Vrindavan and Devaki and have them all killed. Needless to say, Krishna wasn't happy with this, and he jumped up onto the dais, and Kamsa thought he could pull his sword and stop Krishna, but it didn't work very well. And so Krishna pulled him down. Right there. See it? You see it on the ceiling there? It's kind of like that. And Krishna just gave him a good smack, and it was over. So we have to remember that even when there's difficult situations, Krishna can protect us. And if we don't have Krishna's protection, even the small things get us into trouble. Prabhupada says the peace formula, he writes this in the purport to the 29th verse of the 5th chapter, where the Bhoktaram Jagatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and controller of all the universe. And Prabhupada says the peace formula is to remember that Krishna is the supreme controller, he's a supreme friend, and he's the supreme enjoyer. And we get ourselves in trouble when we think we have to control the things. We have to put our effort out. But Krishna's in control. He can make our plans work even when we don't know how to execute them. And he can uproot them even if we have all of the other four factors in order. It's like I have the four of you with a gun, and I have you covered. There's nothing you can do, but the fifth factor is behind me. So because Krishna is the fifth factor behind all the activities, he can come and he can change things. And we get ourselves in trouble trying to be the supreme controller, because we can't control everything. There is so much that's out of our control. It's amazing. We see that, like when I'm going to give a class, like my brain shut off or something go wrong. And we think we need a friend somewhere, but Krishna is that supreme friend, and he can be reached by seeing the deity. He can be reached by chanting his holy names in kirtan and by chanting on beads. He can be reached by remembering him and his pastimes, reading books. He can be reached by serving him. He can be reached by offering prayers. He can be reached by making friends with him and eventually surrendering everything. So it is possible to reach Krishna and have him be the supreme friend through these processes of devotional service. And where we get ourselves in trouble is we want to be the supreme enjoyer. Well, there was one song way back in the 60s, I think it says, I got this wonderful feeling, everything's going my way. So sometimes it seems like everything's going our way. Just like when they would calculate that the planets are going around the Earth, it almost works because they are all orbiting and they all do go around each other to a certain degree, but that doesn't make them the center. The sun is the center. So we think we're the center because things seem to orbit around us when we're there. But we find that there is so much out of our control, so much that can go wrong, and so much that can go right even if we don't work to have it happen. We think about that in South Africa. There's so much crime, but yet we don't get much crime on the temple property because we have guards and Krishna to protect us. So even though we know that guards can protect us, we still have to depend on Krishna. And even though we depend on Krishna, we still have to do the needful. There was a story like that. The flood was coming, and the man's praying, God, please save me. And if someone comes in a car and says, get in the car, I'll drive you away. He says, no, I'm praying to God to save me. And then it comes up higher, and he goes up. He's getting out of his house, and a man comes in a boat and says, jump in the boat. He says, no, I'm praying to God to save me. And then he gets on the top of the house, and a helicopter comes. Get in the helicopter. He says, no, I'm asking God to save me. And then it goes over the house, and he drowns in the flood. And when he goes back to God, he says to God, I prayed to you so many times to save me. He says, why didn't you save me? He says, what do you mean? He says, first I sent a car and you didn't go. Then I sent a boat and you didn't get in the boat. And then I sent a helicopter. It is just like, there's a story, the Indian person was going to get his daughter married and he died. And he went before God and he says, how come you didn't give me any notice? He says, notice? He says, you got plenty of notices. You got gray hair, you got wrinkles, you got sore joints, your vision was getting a little difficult. He says, how many notices do you need? So the notices are there, coming, but yet we neglect these notices. And the deities are back. What do they do when they shut them after as an offering? Yes, offering. It's kind of amazing. We wait all that time for them to open and then it shuts again. But it's open again very quickly. So this is the whole point, that even the demigods who are in great power, they have to depend on Krishna. And so we have to remember that. We have to think, well, what can go wrong? Here's a joke for you. Who can figure this out? What is there that God can't do? Poor people have it, and rich people don't need it. It's what rich people don't need. Poor people have it, and God can't do it. What is it? If you get any one of the three, you'll figure it out. Nikunja, can you give us a guess? What is there God can't do? Poor people have it. And it's what rich people need. What is it? Nothing, did you say? Nothing. There's nothing that God can't do. Poor people have it, right? They have nothing. And what do rich people need? They need nothing. So we see that. So what God can't do? I remember that at times in my life when I went to my rock to pray for some way to develop love of God. And my friends at the Mystic Arts World would always say that someday for spiritual life, we have to give up illicit sex and intoxication. It's like St. Augustine, the Catholic saint, would say, please God, make me chaste to you, but don't do it yet. And people say, yes, I want to surrender to you, Krishna, but don't do it yet. Do it sometime later. So I prayed, I said, okay, God, it's January 5th, 1970. What I'll do is I'll give these things up when the summer comes. Summer is a better time, right? And then I thought, no, all right, God, I'll give these things up for you, and you send me some way to develop love for you. And I thought, how long will it take? A week, a month, a year? And I turned my head, and as far away as the deities are was a devotee walking over in saffron. And I said, what are you doing here at the beach? He says, well, we were on the next beach over on the hill chanting, and all of a sudden I felt this uncontrollable compulsion to come to the beach. He said, would you like to come and chant with us? And I was thinking, how long was it going to take for Krishna to arrange this? A week, a month, a year? And right away, he arranged it, because you take a step to Krishna, and he takes 10 to you. But of course, being a teenage kid in high school in Laguna Beach during the hippie days and the summer of love and all of that, to give up association with girls and intoxication was more than one step. And Krishna arranged it quickly. So I was at the swap meet with the devotees, and we were selling books and incense and other kinds of paraphernalia to help out the temple. And I said, all right, God, just to make sure I'm doing the right thing, send me someone wearing flowers, because the devotees wear flowers like this sometimes, and have him tell me whether I'm doing the right thing or the wrong thing. And I thought, you know what? I've made a request of God that's too difficult, because nobody wears flowers. They don't come to a swap meet, which is like a flea market, where they sell, people have their own booths of whatever they have. Sometimes people bring things from home. Sometimes businesses are there. But people usually aren't wearing a garland. So I thought, you know what, I've made a request that God can't fulfill, right? Because nobody's going to come wearing a garland of flowers, right? Is it true? They won't. But I asked God, please send me someone wearing flowers. And this one man walked up and he looked at several books and he read a couple lines and then he went to another one, intently read it, and then he looks at me and he says, this is very good stuff. He says, you should keep doing this and dedicate your life to this. And I thought, that's a strange thing for someone to say. And I looked and he had a blue shirt on and the pattern on the shirt was flowers on the shirt. And I thought, wow. Someone wearing flowers came and told me, and he was so sure about it. How can someone walk up and then all of a sudden I looked around and he was just like gone? But he said, this is good stuff. You should keep doing it and dedicate your life to it. People don't usually do it. Like if you have a book table, does someone walk up, look at them and say that to you usually? They might say these are interesting or we like this, but to tell you, an instruction to you that you should dedicate your life to it. And then he was just gone, like disappeared. So we find that Krishna can help us out when we require it. And he puts us in the position. When I was first in South Africa, we went to Kshudi Bhai Patel's house, and the thieves came in the door, 4 with guns and 1 with a crowbar. And one, they stuck a gun at my head, said, get under the bed. And the one with the crowbar said, shoot him. And the ones with the gun said, no, we don't need to shoot him. He says, yes, we don't need witnesses. Just shoot him right now. And so, fortunately, the Indian woman, when they asked, where's the keys to the safe? She said, in the other room. And when they went out, she locked the door and went to the window from their bedroom and screamed in the street, thieves, thieves, thieves. And instantly people came, so they had to leave. But, in that minute, I thought, Krishna, I better chant good rounds because this is probably my last chance to chant. I could die right now. So, obviously, Krishna saved me, and he saved me from the security police who were going to throw me out the window at the John Forster Square. And so Krishna protects the demigods, and he can protect us. So, I'm getting a little tired now. Does anybody have any question or comment? I didn't sleep as well, so I think that's about as far as I can go now. Is that all right? Hare Krishna. Someone want to put the Bhagavatam away?
Mm-hmm.